I died on Christmas Eve, choking on tinsel and tears in that godforsaken rental in Queens. My parents' voices echoing from a beach in Maui, like a bad rom-com punchline. The new side fashion from holiday garland snapped my neck before the ambulance could even fake a siren wail. And as the world blurred to black, I saw their faces, not in regret, but in the vacation selfies they'd posted 2 hours earlier. Champagne flutes raised to family traditions. Waking up gasping in my old twin bed in our Greenwich estate. 17 years old again. The calendar on my wall screaming December 2008. I knew one thing for sure. This time, I'd make them remember me forever. It hit me like a freight train through the skull. The rebirth. The cosmic do-over. Whatever you want to call it. 1 minute, I'm swaying in the void. The next, I'm bolt upright in flannel sheets that smell like lavender detergent and regret. My teenage heart pounding like I'd just chugged a Red Bull. The mirror across the room showed my face. Unlined and acne-scarred. The same hazel eyes that had stared back at me from morgue photos in my last life. But the knowledge? That was the killer. Every betrayal. Every forgotten holiday. Every dollar they'd siphoned from my trust fund to fuel their endless escapes, it all flooded back. Sharp as shattered ornaments. I didn't scream. Didn't run to them. Instead, I lay there, fists clenched in the sheets, plotting. My name is Freya Harlan, and in my first go-round, I was the invisible daughter, the punchline to their jet-setter jokes. Dad, Victor Harlan, was a Wall Street shark who devoured startups for breakfast. Mom, Elise, a socialite whose Instagram, or whatever passed for it back then, was a shrine to designer handbags and me time. They weren't monsters in the cartoon sense, no belts, no bruises. Just neglect so profound it carved hollows in my soul. Every Christmas, they'd forget to book my flight or claim a last-minute deal on St. Bart's, leaving me with a credit card and a nanny who ghosted by noon. I'd spend holidays alone in whatever shoebox apartment I could afford on my part-time barista gig, stringing lights on bare walls, whispering Merry Christmas to the ghosts of Hallmark cards. But that last Christmas, the one that ended me, it wasn't just forgetfulness. I'd uncovered their secret, the one that made my death not an accident, but a mercy they never deserved. In the weeks before I hanged myself, I'd hacked into Dad's emails, thank you, free Wi-Fi at the library, finding proof they'd been laundering money through shell companies tied to my inheritance. Worse, they'd forged documents to write me out of the will, claiming I was unstable after a fabricated breakdown. The final nail? A memo from their lawyer. Proceed with the accident if she pushes back. Insurance will cover the loose ends. An accident. That's what they planned for me, not the noose I chose. I beat them to it, but in doing so, handed them everything, my death payout, the sympathy votes at the funeral, the clean slate to rebuild their empire on my grave. Now, back in 2008, with Obama posters on every dorm wall and the economy teetering like a drunk on Black Friday, I had a second shot. No more playing the good girl, baking gingerbread for one. This time, I'd build an empire of my own, one that lured them in like moths to a flame. And on Christmas Eve, when they showed up because they would, I'd lock the door and watch them beg. The first order of business was survival. I couldn't just blurt out prophecies about the crash or Bitcoin. That'd land me in a psych ward faster than you could say Ritalin. So I played it cool. The dutiful daughter. Acing AP Calc and charming the guidance counselor into early college apps. But under the surface, I was a ghost in my own skin. memorizing stock tickles from my future knowledge like Bible verses. Lehman Brothers was about to implode, check. Apple stock was dirt cheap, double check. By freshman year, at NYU, I'd parlayed a lucky dorm room trade into a six-figure brokerage account, all under a fake name to dodge their radar. Mom noticed first, over Thanksgiving break. We were in the kitchen of our sprawling Connecticut McMansion, white marble counters, sub-zero fridge humming like a judgmental aunt, when she sipped her Chardonnay and eyed me over the turkey carcass. Freya, honey, you've got that glow. Boyfriend? Or just the city air? I smiled, all teeth, and lied through them, just hustling.
Mom.
Interning at a fintech startup. She laughed, that tinkling laugh that hid her boredom, and Dad clapped me on the back later, muttering about Harlan grit. If only they knew the grit was mine alone, forged in the fires of their indifference. That winter, as snow blanketed the quad,
I doubled down.
Sleepless nights scrolling pre-Twitter forums, day trading on a clunky laptop that overheated like my rage. By sophomore year, my portfolio hit seven figures. I dropped out, scandalous, right, and launched Harlan Ventures, a VC firm targeting disruptive tech nobody else saw coming. Uber? I seeded it early. Airbnb? Pocket change. The press ate it up. Wunderkind Freya Harlan. 20. Revolutionizing Silicon Alley. Forbes ran a profile. CNBC begged for interviews. And my parents? They preened at the reflection, inviting me to galas where they'd whisper, "Our girl," making us proud. But pride was a prop. I saw the cracks, the way Dad's eyes lingered on my bank statements during casual visits, how Mom's shopping sprees synced suspiciously with my funding rounds. They thought I was blind, still the kid who'd cry over a missed flight.
Wrong.
I was watching, waiting, weaving the noose from silk threads this time. The plan crystallized over a solo bourbon in a midtown speakeasy, jazz humming low like a conspirator. I'd buy the Manor, the one for my fever dreams, Blackwood Hall, a crumbling Gilded Age beast in the Berkshires, listed for a steal after the owner's scandalous overdose. In my first life, it had been my dream escape, the place I'd imagined filling with found family. Now, it'd be the stage for their reckoning. I'd restore it to glory, invite them for the ultimate Harlan Christmas, and when they arrived, expecting fawning gratitude, I'd reveal the locks, literal and figurative. The front door bolted with a custom deadbolt only I had the key to. The documents proving their fraud, projected on every screen. And the twist? I'd recorded every accidental leak to the press, every whisper of sabotage they'd tried on my rising star. But revenge isn't clean, especially when it's dressed in tinsel. As I signed the papers for Blackwood in the fall of 2015, 24 now, a millionaire mogul in Louboutins, I felt the first crack in my armor. Loneliness, that old bitch, crept back. Dates fizzled, friends were transactions. Who bonds over I died once? Still, I pushed on, crews gutting the Manor, installing smart locks synced to my biometrics, hidden cameras in the crown molding. By December, it gleamed, 20 rooms of mahogany and velvet, a library stocked with first editions, a great hall where a 12-foot tree dripped ornaments like guilty tears. The invite went out via engraved cardstock, delivered by courier to their Upper East Side penthouse. Join me for Christmas Eve at Blackwood Hall. Let's make memories that last.
Love.
Freya. They RSVP'd with emojis, heart eyes, champagne pops. Idiots. As the 24th dawned crisp and iron gray, I paced the foyer, cashmere sweater hugging my frame like a second skin. The fire crackled, casting shadows that danced like accusations.
Outside.
Flurries swirled, blanketing the drive in deceptive peace. My phone buzzed, their Tesla pulling up the gravel path. Showtime. They tumbled out like actors late to rehearsal, Dad in a Burberry coat, Mom clutching a bottle of Veuve like a shield.
No gifts.
Of course, they'd forgotten those too many times to count. Freya, this place is insane, Mom gushed, air kissing my cheeks as they crunched toward the portico. Dad whistled, eyeing the turrets. You always did dream big,
Kiddo.
I smiled, stepping aside as they reached the massive oak door. Merry Christmas. You too. Come on in, I've got eggnog and stories that'll blow your minds. Their faces lit with that greedy glow, the one that said, "What's in it for us?" I punched the code on the hidden panel, and the door stayed shut.
Locked.
Dad rattled the handle first,
Chuckling. Ha.
fancy tech. Unlock it. Freya. Mom peered at the keypad, frowning. Is this one of those smart homes? I hate those, always glitching. No glitch, I said, voice steady as Vermont steel. It's deliberate. Welcome to the real Harlan tradition. Their confusion curdled to irritation. Dad pounded harder. Freya, open the damn door. It's freezing out here. Mom shivered, dialing my cell voicemail. Of course. That's when the Locksmith van rumbled up, summoned by my anonymous tip to their doorman. Family emergency at Blackwood. Urgent access needed. The guy, burly and Carhartt, hopped out with his kit, eyeing us like we'd staged a bad reality show. Which one of you called? Dad blustered. I did. My daughters locked us out. Get this open.
Now.
As the locksmith worked, sparks flying from his drill, I watched from the window, sipping spiked cider, the screens behind me flickering to life with dossiers. Emails. Bank transfers.
The forgery.
The accident memo, time-stamped from my first life. Inside, the tree lights pulsed like a heartbeat.
Outside.
Their voices rose, accusations. Then please. Freya, this isn't funny, Mom wailed. The lock clicked, the door swung in. They burst through, red-faced and wild-eyed, the locksmith trailing awkwardly with his invoice. But as they stormed the foyer, coats shedding snow like alibis, I hit play. The projector hummed, bathing the room in cold blue light. Their faces on screen, smirking over cocktails, toasting to Freya's silence. Dad froze. Mom gasped, hand to her pearls. What the hell is this? Truth serum, I replied, circling them like a shark in heels. You forgot me every Christmas, but I never forgot. The money you stole. The will you faked. The plan to handle me when I got too close. Dad's mouth opened, closed fish on dry dock. Freya, that's not. We were protecting the family. Family? I laughed, bitter as burnt chestnuts. You built your empire on my bones. Literally. I died because of you, choking on your lies. 10 years from now. But here's the twist. I came back. And this. I gestured to the Manor. The screens. The evidence streaming to my lawyer's inboxes even now. This is me, remembering you. Mom crumpled first, sobbing into Dad's lapel. We didn't mean it was the business. The debts, lies, all of it. The cameras caught every flinch, every whispered, "Shut up." Elise, the locksmith, forgotten in the corner, cleared his throat. Bill's $500. Cash or card? Dad fumbled for his wallet, hands shaking. That's when the real storm hit, not snow, but sirens. My tip to the feds. Time to perfection. IRS agents, SEC hounds, swarming the drive like wolves to a lame deer. Victor Harlan, you're under arrest for fraud and conspiracy. He lunged at me then, eyes feral. You bitch. You ruined us. But the Manor security, my private detail, ex-Marines, pinned him before his fingers grazed my sleeve. Mom wailed as cuffs clicked, her mascara rivers of black. Freya, please, blood is thicker. Blood, I whispered, leaning close as they dragged her out. You spilled mine first. They hauled them away under the Christmas lights, taillights fading into the blizzard. The Manor fell silent, save for the fire's pop and my ragged breaths. Victory tasted like ash, sweet, then sour. I'd won, their empire gutted. Headline screaming, Harlan heiress exposes parents' empire of lies. Blackwood was mine, a fortress of solitude. But as I sank into the armchair, tree branches scraping the windows like accusing fingers, doubt crept in. Was this justice? Or just another forgotten holiday?
No.
This was rebirth. And for the first time, I poured eggnog for one, toasting the girl who'd risen from the noose. The fallout hit like a nor'easter, burying the Berkshires under drifts of subpoenas and tabloid sleaze. By New Year's, Blackwood Hall wasn't just a manor, it was ground zero for the Harlan implosion. Paparazzi drones buzzing the eaves like vengeful hornets. I barricaded myself inside, live streaming updates to my subscribers. I'd pivoted ventures into a media arm, because why not monetize the mess? But the high faded fast. Turns out, exposing your parents as white-collar sociopaths doesn't fill the echoey halls with laughter. It just amplifies the quiet. I'd anticipated the legal blitz, lawyers on retainer, PR spinners turning me into a whistleblower saint. Dad's trial started in spring, a circus of pinstripes and perjury in federal court downtown. I testified remotely, voice steady over video link, laying out the timeline like a prosecutor's wet dream, the siphon funds from my trust meant for college, not their yacht club dues. The forged psych eval labeling me delusional, the chilling email chain plotting my relocation if I didn't play ball. Jurors gasped at the screen grabs. The judge banged his gavel like punctuation. Mom took the plea deal, singing like a canary to shave years off her sentence. 30 months in minimum security, with yoga and rehab for her stress-induced kleptomania. Dad, he fought it, raging on the stand about family loyalty until the jury slapped him with 15. No parole. The twist came mid-trial, courtesy of a chain-smoking accountant Dad had bribed for decades. Under immunity, he spilled not just the fraud, but the origin story. I wasn't their biological kid. Conceived via donor in '91 when their marriage was already a sham. I'd been their project, a tax write-off, a photo op prop. The real betrayal? They'd known about a genetic marker in the donor profile, one linked to early onset bipolar, and buried it to keep the narrative clean. When I started questioning their forgetfulness in my 20s, they amped up the gaslighting, planting doubts until I doubted my own sanity. That accident memo? It wasn't murder for hire, it was insurance fraud. staging a breakdown to institutionalize me and seize control. Hearing it in open court, even filtered through pixels, gutted me. Not because of the blood lie, DNA's just code. After all but the calculation. I'd been expendable from conception. A loose end in their ledger. That night, alone in Blackwood's library, I cracked open a scotch older than me and scrolled old family albums. There I was, gap-toothed at 5, hugging their legs at a Hamptons picnic. Lies. Every frame. But buried in the attic trunk I'd hauled down for evidence, I found it, my real birth certificate, stamped with the donor ID. And a letter, yellowed and unsigned. In Mom's looping script, we'll love her enough for 2. Make her ours.
Love.
What a crock. Yet, as rain lashed the panes, I wept, not for them, but for the girl who'd believed it. The one who died clutching that lie like a lifeline. Spring thawed the Berkshires, bringing green shoots and greenbacks. Ventures boomed. Investors loved a redemption arc. I hired a chef, a housekeeper, folks from the local diner, down on their luck types who'd nod knowingly at my family drama without prying. Blackwood started feeling less like a tomb, more like a HQ. I hosted retreats for female founders, workshops on resilience through reinvention, turning pain into pitch decks. Therapy helped. 2. Dr. Lena, a noble shit shrink from Albany, who called my rebirth a metaphor for agency without batting an eye at the literal new scars I'd inked as tattoos on my wrists. But the past doesn't stay buried, it festers. Dad's appeals dragged into summer, each filing a reminder of his venom. Letters smuggled from Rikers, scrawled rants calling me Judas Spawn, begging for bail money to fix this mess you made. I burned them in the hearth, ashes swirling like confetti at a funeral. Mom's visits were worse, supervised at a fluorescent-lit center upstate. Her in orange scrubs that clashed with her highlights, me behind plexiglass like a bad prison flick. Freya, baby, forgive us. We were scared of losing everything. Her eyes, once cool as emeralds, now watery and desperate. Part of me, the old me, wanted to press the intercom, say, unlock the gate.
Mom.
Come home. But the new me, she remembered the noose, the tinsel bite, and hit end call. The controversial call came in July. Heat wave sticky as guilt. A reporter from Vanity Fair, sniffing for the untold angle, leaked a draft. Heiress or homewrecker. Freya Harlan's ruthless reckoning. It painted me as the villain, ambitious ice queen torching her roots for clicks. Online. It exploded. Cancel Freya trending. Trolls digging up my donor origins, spinning yarns about ungrateful lab rat. Sponsors pulled out. A board member quit, muttering about optics.
Dr.
Lena called it a trigger. You're not just fighting them, you're fighting the narrative they built. I fought back. Raw and American style, a TEDx talk in Boston. From forgotten to fearless, where I owned the mess. Yeah, I locked my parents out, literally. Because sometimes, family is the biggest fraud. The crowd roared, clips went viral. But privately, I doubled the security. Paranoia prickling like static. Were they coming for me? Dad's old cronies. Wall Street wolves with grudges? Autumn painted Blackwood gold. Leaves crunching under boots as I walked the grounds. Plotting phase 2. Revenge wasn't done, it evolved. I'd expose the network, the enablers. The lawyers who'd rubber-stamped the forgeries. The bankers who'd looked the other way. A podcast series. Silent seasons, dropping episodes like bombs, Survivor stories of elite neglect. Data dumps on systemic fraud. It raked in millions. But the cost? Sleepless nights. Shadows in the mirrors that looked too much like their faces.
Then,
The call that shattered the frame. Mom. Released early for good behavior. Wanted to sit down. Neutral ground. A diner off I-87. Vinyl booths smelling of fries and faded dreams. I almost failed. But curiosity's a bitch. She slid in across from me. Thinner. Eyes haunted. No scrubs now. Just mom jeans and a sweater that swallowed her. Freya. I read your book.
wait. Book?
Turns out, my ghostwritten memoir had dropped. A bestseller I'd barely proofed. We talked, or she did. Words tumbling like loose change. The donor choice. Desperation after miscarriages. A perfect match from some Ivy League catalog. The early years. Genuine. Until Dad's first affair. The debts piling like snowdrifts. We forgot you because we forgot ourselves. But the accident plan? That was him. Freya. I begged him to stop. Lies? Maybe. But her tears were real. Splashing the Formica like rain on a windshield. I leaned in, voice low. Why the letter?
Then,
Make her ours. What did that mean? She flinched. Then whispered the bomb. We knew about the marker. But we also knew. You're his. Biologically. The donor was a lie, to cover his infidelity. You were conceived the old-fashioned way. With his mistress. We claimed IVF to save face. The world tilted. Dad's daughter. Not a test tube fluke. The rages. The hazel eyes his. Betrayal squared. A Mobius strip of deceit. I stood. Chair scraping like a scream. You made me a secret twice over. Merry fucking Christmas. Driving back. Wipers slashing the downpour. I screamed into the void. Rebirth my ass. This was a curse. Looping the pain. Blackwood loomed through the mist. Lights a beacon or a trap. Inside. I fired up the screens. Not for evidence. But escape. Emails to allies. Blueprints for expansion. No more hiding. Winter crept back. Insidious as frostbite. Dad's conviction stuck. He shipped to Otisville. Griping about Madoff Light. Mom vanished into therapy speak. Sending Hallmark cards that went straight to the shredder.
Me?
I threw the first Blackwood gala, black tie. A-listers toasting to new beginnings under chandeliers that dripped like honeyed lies. But as confetti fell, a face in the crowd, the locksmith from last year. Now a PI I'd hired for protection. He pulled me aside. Breath minty, with urgency. MS. Harlan, your father's appealing again.
And he's got dirt.
Photos. From your first accident. Photos. Of the noose? Impossible. I'd burn the evidence. Unless. The twist uncoiled. Dad hadn't planned my death. He'd staged it after. For sympathy. Doctored scenes. Planted narratives to paint me the suicide. Him the grieving dad. But how? The answer hit like a sucker punch, Mom. She'd found me too late that Christmas Eve. Cut me down. Called it in, but instead of help, she'd called him. They spun the tale. Collected the check. Buried the truth. Rage boiled fresh. This wasn't over, it was inception. The gala's glitter faded into a hangover of headlines. But I didn't crumble, I weaponized it. December 2016 loomed like a loaded gun. The anniversary of my death ticking closer with each advent calendar tear. Blackwood pulsed with purpose now, war room disguised as holiday haven. Walls papered in legal briefs. Servers humming with encrypted files.
The PI.
Gus, ex-cop with a Brooklyn bark and a soft spot for strays, dug deeper. Unearthing the photos, grainy Polaroids of me slumped in that queen's closet, tinsel haloing my neck like a mock saint. Time-stamped post-mortem. Emailed to their insurer with a sob story. Our girl couldn't take the pressure we put on her.
Sick.
Diabolical. They'd turned my cry for help into their golden ticket. A $2 million policy payout that bankrolled their comeback tours, tell-all books ghosted by publicists. TED Talks on resilient parenting. I wanted to vomit. But instead, I channeled it. A countersuit. Filed Christmas Eve, accusing them of corpse desecration and fraud. The press lapped it up. Heiress haunts parents past. And for the first time, public pity swung my way. Freya fights trended. GoFundMe poured in for abuse survivors. Vindication. Bitter as black coffee. But victory's a jealous mistress. As snow blanketed the Berkshires again, isolation gnawed. Gus became a fixture, coffee runs turning to late-night stakeouts on the Widow's Walk, his gravel voice cutting through my monologues. You ain't gotta do this alone.
Kid.
Revenge is a solo sport, but living, that's a team game. He was right. In that dad joke way. But trust? That muscle atrophied long ago. Still, when he kissed me under the mistletoe, half joking, half daring, I didn't pull away. Turns out, rebirth includes room for messy, human things. Mom's response to the suit was a Hail Mary, a sworn affidavit, delivered by courier on Boxing Day. Her signature shaky as a leaf. Freya.
Stop this.
The photos were to protect you from scandal, from the truth about your father. He wasn't right in the head. The rages, the plans, it was him. But I covered because I loved you both.
Loved.
Past tense. Like a relic. Enclosed, a locket. Silver and heart-shaped, with a faded photo of toddler me on Dad's shoulders. His smile genuine. Pre-betrayal. I snapped it open, half expecting poison, but found only memory. For a heartbeat, I saw the family that could have been, the one before the dollars drowned the love. I didn't call her. Instead, I drove to Otisville, the prison a squat concrete scar on the upstate landscape. Visiting hours were a farce, buzzer doors. Stale air thick with regret. Dad shuffled in. Orange jumpsuit hanging off his frame like defeat's flag. Grayer. Gaunter. But those hazel eyes, mine, burned with the old fire. Come to gloat. Princess. No, I lied, sliding into the booth. To end it, I laid out the photos. The payout trail.
The affidavit.
His laugh was a wheeze. You think that's the end?
Kid.
You were always the smart one. But smart don't mean right. We built this for you, the money, the name. You tore it down for what? A grudge? For truth, I shot back, voice echoing off cinder blocks. You staged my suicide. Turned my pain into profit. That's not building, that's burying. He leaned in, breath fogging the divider. And what about your little lockout stunt? Parading us like criminals on national TV. You think that makes you better? You're Harlan through and through ruthless. Rewriting history. The words landed like hooks. Snagging doubts I'd buried. Was I them? The Manor? The media machine? Mirrors of their empire? Then, the gut punch twist. Ask your mother about the donor. Freya. Or don't. But know this, you're mine. Blood and bone. And that rage? It's genetic. You'll burn it all. Just like I did. I left shaking, the locket heavy in my pocket. Genetic. Rage. The drive home blurred through tears. Wipers useless against the storm inside. Blackwood welcomed me with open arms, fires lit. Gus waiting with stew and silence. Over dinner, I spilled it all, the photos, the visit, the blood tie that bound tighter than any lie. He listened, then cupped my face, thumbs rough as truth. Doesn't make you him, Freya. Makes you survivor. Choose different.
Choice.
The word haunted my dreams that night, twisting into tinsel nooses and courtroom gavels. Awake at dawn, I made the call not to lawyers, but to Mom's halfway house. Meet me. Blackwood. One last Christmas. She arrived at dusk on the 23rd. Taxi crunching gravel like bones.
Frylier.
But eyes clear. Clutching a pie from the corner bakery, apple. My favorite. Pre-betrayal. Gus hung back in the kitchen, giving us the foyer. The tree loomed, lights soft as apologies. Freya. Thank you for this. Don't, I said, handing her the locket. Explain. Words poured then. A deluge. Dad's affairs. The donor cover to hide the mistress's pregnancy. The rage is his, triggered by the bipolar marker he'd passed on, undiagnosed until too late. Her complicity. I thought protecting the image protected us. But I lost you twice, once to neglect, once to that night. That night. She described finding me, the garland taut, her screams dialing 911 too late. No staging, just panic. Photos snapped by first responders. Twisted later by Dad for the claim. Twist upon twist, the memo? A bluff. Leaked to scare me into silence. The payout? Donated anonymously to suicide prevention. Her doing after his refusal. He hated you for surviving, for thriving without us.
But I
always watched. Your successes? I clipped every article.
watched.
The word cracked me open. Not love. Maybe. But something feral. Maternal. We sat by the fire. Pie crust flaking like old skin. And for the first time, I saw her not villain, but victim too. Flawed. Fractured. But flesh. Dad's letter arrived next morning, smuggled via a guard. His scrawl defiant. And the suit. Or I'll tell the world your secret, the rebirth bullshit you whispered to that shrink. Yeah. I bugged the house. Merry Christmas. Blood.
The bluff.
He knew nothing paranoia. Not prescience. I laughed, burning it with the others. But the choice loomed. Press on. Bury him deeper in appeals. Or let go. Christmas Eve dawned brittle bright. Gus and I strung lights on the porch. His hand steady in mine. Mom helped.
Tentative.
Her laugh rusty but real. No locksmith this time, just open doors. Eggnog flowing free. As dusk fell, sirens wailed, not feds, but ambulances.
Dad.
Stroke in his cell. Critical but clinging. Mom gasped, I felt. Nothing. And everything. We drove to the hospital. A makeshift family in the SUV, Gus at the wheel, her hand on my knee. In the sterile hall, monitors beeping like accusations. Dad opened roomy eyes. Freya. Victor, I said. Neutral as snow. It's over. Drop the appeals. We'll settle, community service, restitution. For the donors, the families you fleeced. He nodded.
Weak.
The fight leached out. Mom squeezed his hand. Forgiveness flickered. Fragile as a candle. Outside. Under hospital halos. Gus pulled me close. You chose grace.
Kid.
That's the real rebirth. And as stars pricked the velvet sky, Blackwood waiting with its arms wide, I believed him. Not every Christmas is forgotten. Some are forged anew. Mine? This one stuck, tangled, true, unbreakable.